I said it felt like a Monday today. So
I tell you, man, it's been uh all right, I got that recording in the car. All right. All right. So yeah, I'll just go. Um all right. So you're down here in Georgia. Did you grow up in Georgia?
I did.
Okay. Did you go to public school, private school, you're homeschooled?
I was public schooled.
Okay. All right. Do you would how do you recall that? Is it fond memories, or is it one of those it's kind of a little sore spots here and there?
Elementary school was amazing. I
Mhm.
loved elementary school. Middle and high school was definitely rough and hard, and everything, just with teenage girls and
Mhm.
the drama that came with that.
Yeah.
I loved cheer, and that was basically the only thing that kept me like wanting to stay in a public school. Otherwise, I was always more interested in wanting to be homeschooled or doing a hybrid or some sort like that.
Okay. Interesting. Was there much of that around when you were coming up?
No, I think there was more alternative type schools,
Okay.
but and there was some that were kind of a hybrid, and it was a fast pace, and it still wasn't exactly what I would have been comfortable going to.
Okay. Good deal. So you get done with school, kids along the way. Did you homeschool them from the beginning? Was that something you wanted to do, or was that how did that happen?
Um, I'd always wanted to like do homeschooling somewhere in their educational lives. I usually had thought about maybe third through middle school because that's really, I think, when a lot of the hardships that I started to have started coming up. And I wanted them to be able to focus on learning and to stay more innocent as long as possible.
Yeah.
And so it was always kind of in our minds that we were going to homeschool. But it really wasn't until my oldest daughter hit fifth grade, and it was just a really, really hard, really awful year for her. And I just could not allow her to continue with that. And so we pulled her out and started homeschooling her in sixth grade.
Okay. All right. So then she's the oldest, she's six. What the next in age, where were they? What grade were they?
Um, so my stepson is 16 and he's in 10th grade, and we pulled him out about a year and a half ago, not too far
Okay.
after my daughter. And she's 14. She's now about to finish eighth grade, her third
Okay.
year of homeschooling. Our next one is 12 in sixth grade. And then we have a 2-year-old.
Okay. All right. All right. So all right. I assume she was the first one. Was she the first one to be pulled out?
Yes, she
Okay.
was.
All right. All right. So what was it that kind of forced that? Was it just the education? Was it the relationships and developments, or what was kind of the deciding factor there?
It was a mixture of a few things. Most of it was we knew that she was incredibly smart,
Hmm.
um, but she has some learning disabilities and is sensory processing disorder. And we just noticed that she wasn't getting everything out of school that she could. She was often stressed and anxious at school. It was hard for her to connect to a lot of her peers. When she got home, it was just, she would go crawl into bed, and it was hard to get her to engage. And we
Yeah.
just saw her going down a really bad mental path.
Yeah.
And for her mental health, we pulled her, and I think within the first month or two of our first homeschooling, she just soared.
Yeah.
And just everything about her blossomed. And it was just, it really kind of sealed that for us that we were doing the right thing.
Good. That's awesome. That's good to see. That's good. How was that when you guys kind of pulled the plug? Was it? It's always scary,
Yeah.
and I think when you have like special needs that resources that the school might have that you might not have access to, like that makes it even scarier, right? Because like you've been led to believe like they have all these resources that they have that you don't possess. And so was that how was that for you guys? scared about it at first, or how did that?
Oh, I cried a
Yeah.
lot. I was petrified.
Yeah.
But her teachers were awesome because they knew
Okay.
that that's what we were going to do. They all you could tell that they agreed that that was probably the best for her.
Good.
My mom was a retired elementary school teacher, so I had her kind of on my back pocket to help me, but I wanted to do it myself, and
Yeah.
I made her own curriculum and everything. But it was definitely scary. I think I spent all summer long, up all night wondering if I was making the right choice, if I was going to completely ruin her.
Yeah.
But, it has definitely has shown me it was the right thing to do. And I was shocked by how much better I was doing at it than I thought I would.
Yeah. Yeah. Good deal. And I'm sure you found that throughout then. If you still doing the curriculum, still making it, or have you kind of moved into more box type
Yeah,
stuff?
we'd use most of whatever I choose and pick from. I kind of quilt up my own curriculum. She does go to a co-op for writing once a week, and then my mom handles a lot of the writing because that's where she thrives at. But for the most part, have just gone on and looked at different types of curriculums and different workbooks and things like that, but do mainly hands-on with her. Next year for high school might be a little different because I'd want something a little bit more structured that I can really record off of. But for right now, it's been really well to kind of pick and choose at her liking and dislikes and where she's at in her levels and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the beauties of homeschooling, is that you can kind of pick their desires, their specialties, what they want, and they thrive when they can do that. But so I'm kind of curious. Your mom was a teacher at some point. How was she when you went to take your daughter out? Was she tentative at all? Does she have anything to say about any of that?
She was insanely supportive.
That's awesome.
She provided me with more resources than I could have asked for, and wanted to be part of a lot of the choosings of what I was going to do. But she was excited, and I think it really opened her up to seeing all the different types of possibilities out there and how homeschooling can be very successful for students.
Yeah, and it's curious because I think sometimes people get pushback from family or grandparents, that like this isn't normal, right? It's normal to send your kids to school and keeping them home. That's not normal. And there's always that little bit of pushback. And sometimes when you have like teachers, like retired teachers, it's even more ingrained in them. But then that's like my mom was in special ed for a while, and then she retired and she found out, we're going to homeschool the kids. And there was a moment, there was some time where it was like, I don't know about this, you guys, like, and now once she's seen it happening, it's, oh, wow, this is great. Like, can't believe I didn't do this. So
Yeah.
how's that been with, so you have a 16, 14, and then you had one that was younger?
Yeah, she's 12.
12. Okay. All right. And they're all homeschooled at this point?
At this point, yes, the 12-year-old goes, she has full-blown classes online in the mornings. She goes from one class to the other for her private school, and because they're now on district learning.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so how does that work with your older guy then? Does that, in terms of curriculum and whatnot, being in high school, are you having to specialize a lot more? Is he looking at college classes, or what are you guys doing for that?
We are still trying to engage him into school. School has been rough for him, and he's starting to learn that he's smart and he is knowledgeable of things. So he was doing some public online homeschooling, and that did not work out for him whatsoever.
Okay.
It was too strict and too demanding, and the pace wasn't appropriate for him. So
Is
we
it
recently, mhm,
what program is that? Is that like was that through the state?
yes,
Okay. All right.
Connexus.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called. I know I've seen it pop up in like different states kind of offer this thing that they call homeschooling, but it's like just public school at home almost. That's
Yeah,
what this was?
it was.
Okay. All right. So how, and it was just, was some of the leeway not there to shape it like you will, or how much of it is mandated or dictated through the state program? I don't know if that makes sense.
It's basically as if he was going into a regular public school classroom.
Okay.
I had zero say in anything. He had very strict due dates and things like that. And he has ADHD and things like that is why we were kind of like, we got to pull him out of school, like, and get that and everything under control for him. And it just was not working well for him. It was very demanding. Um, the time for it was, he was spending more time on that than he would have in a public school setting. It was just ridiculous, and all he did was read all day long, and it made him very frustrated.
Yeah. All right. I was curious about that. I would think that it would end up exactly like you say, but I never knew anyone that did it. So, all right. Kind of curious. So with the shutdown and all the different stuff that's going on, so your younger daughter is at home. She goes to private school. How has that changed? She's doing everything online, I guess you said, but how has that been different or?
I mean, she enjoys the fact that the way that her school does it, they have to all come together for every single class. They can't do it on their own terms or their own times. So she still gets to see her friends and they get to still socialize that way. But it has been very different, especially for, I think, a private school setting. There's been a lot of rules and regulations that we still have to put in place in our own home, which is difficult when you're a homeschool parent in general, to have somebody telling you what you have to do in your own home with schooling. But she's enjoyed that part of it. But it has definitely at times thrown a wrench into our regular homeschooling schedule and atmosphere, which has been a challenge to get over. And I'm not one that likes my schedule messed with. And so it's been a learning journey for all of us. But there's moments that I see where it's been very good for her. She gets way more online teaching than a lot of public schools and a lot of other schools are doing right now, because she's getting these actual classes and actual teaching time versus here's a pamphlet or here's a packet, this is what you're going to do and release. So it's been an interesting journey.
All right. So she has better connection to the teacher, I guess, than some of the public schools. Cause I know there's, some of the public school, that's what you hear is like, you can't get in touch with anybody. And I've actually talked to somebody last week about a private school and they're able to maintain some of that connection much better than, is it just smaller classes or what? Do you have any idea why that is or what that is?
I think it's just the administration has just required that of the teachers to teach and be on the computer just like they would be sitting in their classroom. I know before the shutdown order, they were allowed to go into their classrooms and actually teach from their classrooms. So I think a lot of teachers were using that opportunity to go, as long as social distancing was being used, to sit in their classrooms and teach so that they weren't, they have kids as well, but that way they could focus and get into all their classes.
Okay. All right. So you have with everything shut down, you're kind of seeing your you have two nephews that are public schooled, I guess, right?
Yes.
And are you, how much are you helping them, or is that mostly your mom's helping them, or are you getting involved with that?
Yeah, my mom helps a lot with them because being the teacher that she is, and the type of Mimi she is, she loves to be there with all her grandkids. And since they're all right there next door almost, we have a lot of help from Mimi. So yeah, she does a lot of it. They do some weekly check-ins with their teachers. We do a lot of activities with them too. Like we had field day yesterday and they came over and we did a big field day with all the cousins. And we try to do like weekly hiking and things like that. But they definitely have had a lot more free time built into their schooling than my daughter with her private school, and a lot more flexibility to do other things and to have extra activities done with them. But it's definitely kind of more of that, here's your weekly assignments, here's some videos, you can meet with your teacher on these days at this time. It actually kind of reminded me a little bit about the public online that my stepson did for a while too.
I guess that would kind of make sense. They kind of already had that model in place. Why not just deploy it everywhere?
Yeah.
How old are they, or what grade are they in?
They are in third and fourth, I think now.
Okay, so like
They grew up too
elementary.
quick. Yeah.
Okay, and so what are they? Are they just they're doing kind of the basics, your math, English, reading type stuff, and that's more or less the gist of it, or
They have their specials involved as well.
do they?
And so I know that the other day they had to go outside and play tennis. But again, it's more parent, coached than it
Yeah.
is. Whereas my daughter with her private school, they have PE on the computer. So she has to get up and she has to be working out and showing the teacher that she's actually participating, or record videos and send them in. So they get like these different things. But yeah, yesterday I think was play tennis with a balloon.
Okay, that's wild. So your daughter has to submit like video evidence that she's done her exercise for the day. All right. So your nephews then, are they doing mostly like packets and stuff? Is most of it kind of like busy work? Or are they doing, I don't know, like projects and things like that? Or what does it look like? The work
Most of
that
it's online, and they get their assignments through their classrooms online of whatever their school is using, similar to like Google Classroom type things. And they do their work on the computer. I know sometimes they have some hands-on things that they can print out, and they'll have worksheets that they do. I believe that their county is no longer really including any new lessons. And so it's kind of more reviewing and doing fun activities like that. And they have little projects here and there that are suggested. And like my daughter on Mondays, they do Marker Mondays, which is they get a creative project that they can or don't have to do because they don't have school on Mondays right now. And so they do all kinds of STEM type of activities, and the boys get the same type of things as well from their school.
Okay. Right. So how are your nephews enjoying it? Do they prefer it, or?
I think it depends on the day. They're both extremely social and into sports, and they miss playing sports with their friends and going to school and playing on the playground and all of those things. But I think at the same time, sometimes they enjoy the relaxation that they get to have a little bit more throughout the day, and the more breaks that they are able to have, and getting to spend time with their family more often.
Yeah. It's funny because I think some of those things, like not being able to, go play with your friends and go out on the playground and that sort of thing. Like, I mean, you do the homeschool thing, like you do those things, you incorporate them, and this whole shutdown has just been wild like that. It's that I think has had the biggest impact on kids, right? Is that inability to socialize, you know, like everybody's
Absolutely.
always about homeschoolers don't socialize their kids. And, you know, here it is. Well, we actually did, but now we can't anymore. So
Yeah,
you,
I mean, my daughter went from not being able to socialize to being extremely social and making so many new friends. And she's definitely disliking this greatly with not being able to see people and meet people to go do different things with our homeschool groups and
yeah.
everything. And being a teenager too, it's not as much fun.
I can imagine. Mine aren't quite there yet, but not looking forward to it. So do you any like how does it compare? How does the public distant learning thing compare to like your homeschool program? I imagine it's pretty different, right? But I guess, I don't know. They're just like,
Yeah, it's I mean, I can see where there's some similarities, but with the different types of works that they're doing, like some hands-on, some worksheets and things like that. I think the biggest difference is just parents aren't having to like think about their curriculum and put it together and make sure they have all the stuff. There's still the responsibility of like making sure that you have things printed out or that, you know, if you need certain supplies. But the are we still on track? Is our lessons on track? Are different. There's definitely not as much hands-on as like I typically do as a homeschool parent. I do a lot more games and life events and experiences to incorporate school and some different types of projects like that versus sit down busy work. So that's definitely a difference. And I think the frustration, I'm not frustrated as a homeschool mom. I know my schedule. I know how to change it around sometimes. I know how to be flexible with it. I work from home too already before all this. So I already kind of knew how to do all that and juggle those two things. But I think definitely just having the frustrations of, yeah, you can't get in touch with people when you need to, who's in charge of things, having certain deadlines, computers not working and not being able to get into Zoom meetings because they're so slammed packed. Those are definitely a lot more issues that you get from the public school and from private school digital learning versus like being homeschooled. You just kind of, you already know how to kind of go with the flow at times.
yeah, yeah. I think that's huge. The curriculum, right? Whether you buy it in a box or you create it on your own, like you've made that choice. That buy-in is there. You've done that. And I think kind of when these kids are sent home and they're just doing it online and parent has to get involved, it's the buy-in isn't there. They're not interested in it. They have no idea what's going on, you know? So it's been interesting to hear different people talk about it and how it's been kind of affecting them.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting to go from like, I know where my children in homeschooling, I know where they're at and they're learning. I know where there are struggles and things like that. I know how to get them to focus if I need to. But I have heard a lot from like my friends too, like the struggle of getting some of their kids to sit down and do work is very difficult, especially for their kindergartners. And they don't know what they're working on in school because they didn't have their last conference. So they're like, I don't know what they're working on, what they're doing, what they're, you know, and so it's been kind of, I can imagine just having that all thrown into a parent's lap can be very stressful. But yeah, you're right. When you're going in for a homeschooling, you know what you're doing, you see what you're going to do, you see your overall goal in the future. And with this, it's just been, here you go. Here's your kids. Learn how to get them to sit down and do work. And by the way, we're learning cursive this week, whether you want to or not.
Yeah,
You know, so
exactly.
yeah, not a lot of say.
And anyway, it's yeah, I don't know. And I think some of it too goes to that, like, you're, when you're forced to do things, it's totally different. When you have to follow that schedule, it's just night and day different. And kids aren't used to it either. The kids aren't used to doing school at home. They're not, because there is that transition when you take a kid out of public school and start homeschooling them. They need to get used to that too, and to just do it like that, like they're doing it, and expect everyone to just hop right along. It's wild, but I don't know. Curious, how do you do it with a 2-year-old?
Huh, I don't know. I'm still figuring that one out. He's a tornado, and I have found that our scheduling, we have to do all hands-on, like science experiments and going hiking. All of our hands-on things have to be done in the mornings, because that's when he is the most present and excited, and he loves to join us on those things. So, I've just learned that we have to incorporate him one way or another. And so we do a lot of our hands-on at that moment. And then when he goes down for his nap is when I kind of say, okay, this is your independent time. But it's been a little bit different now, because with my daughter and online distant learning, all of her stuff's in the morning. And so I have to have a quiet house and no disruptions, and I can't do the hands-on thing. So it's been a struggle. I mean, my homeschool kids are definitely lacking in a lot of schooling right now because of it. And then just working from home too, like, my kids thankfully can just jump in occasionally and then go back to their schoolwork. But, when they have strict scheduling online, it has definitely been a struggle. But usually he's a great helper and loves to just tag along and do his own little schoolwork and be part of the big kids.
Good deal. We have he's like 3.5, and we're struggling. He's a tornado and a half. It's like just wild, but getting through it. Do you work from home normally?
Yes, I do. Except I work with child welfare law, and so unless I'm having to meet with clients or go to court, I'm at home.
Okay, that's good then. So you kind of build your schooling around your schedule then?
I
You're able
do.
to do that. Awesome. Good deal. All right. Any parting words of wisdom? Any thoughts you want to get out there?
I think, for people to remember that what they're doing right now, whether it's district learning and even some people who are homeschooling on a normal basis, what we're doing right now is not a norm. And, it's really more of a crisis schooling, and to just remember to just do your best, and that's all that we can do. And even if you're just making cookies for the day, your children learned more that day than they could have. So, just keep up the good work, and one day this too shall pass.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's amazing what you can actually learn just from like daily tasks, like following recipes, learning all the stuff. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
I thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah.